How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Leadway Wealth Builders podcast. We have a great episode for you today with another interview with a local investor in my area. If you haven't listened to this show before, my name is Chris Rickenbaugh, and I'm documenting my journey in real estate and business while also talking a little bit about travel hacking and personal finance. So every day I post on Instagram and TikTok exactly what I'm doing in my business, and you can find that at leadway.wealth. And you can follow along on this podcast at figuringitoutfinance.com. So let's hop into today's episode. We have Mark Drake joining us today. How's it going, Mark?
What's up, Chris? It's going pretty good, man.
Good, good. Yeah, you're. We talked a little bit before, but it sounds like you're staying pretty busy with what you're doing.
Oh yeah, dude. I got one property we're doing a remodel on now. I have another property under contract, and then a little bit of work here and there for a couple people I like, and that's about it. But hey, it keeps me busy.
There you go. There you go. And yeah, sorry if it sounds like I'm out of breath. Pollen season is like killing me here, and I
Oh
like I
yeah.
can't breathe. So
Dude, it finally rained, man, and I'm just like, thank God, because my whole face was swollen, just pollen's killing it.
oh yeah, I had to mow out at one of my flips last
Uh,
Friday, and I mean I was tore up the entire weekend. Like couldn't
right.
step outside.
Yeah, sounds about right for North Carolina.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's hop into a little bit of your story. You said you were working on one of your projects, but getting to know you, um, other than hopping on a normal call, I'm like, let's just get you on the podcast and
Yeah.
like get to know each other a little bit. So where are you currently at in your investing journey? And you touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, man, I started my own business back in 2020. Before that, I had a 4-year degree. I was working finance. I was working to become a finance bro, essentially.
Oh yeah.
And an opportunity presented itself. One of my family members passed away. She left her house to me. And from there on, man, I was like, dude, I could remodel this. I kind of grew up doing landscaping and stuff like that. And my dad helped me learn a few things, and from there I sort of took off. And since then, man, I'm think I'm on like my sixth or seventh property, um, sixth or eighth, something like that I've owned and worked on. So right now it's just like I'm getting into the groove of things, man, starting to like understand what I need to do to acquire a property, how long it's going to take to remodel it, what I can't do, and go from there. And I'm sort of just like looking to start. I was going for a while of buying a house, flipping it, doing it, selling it, sitting for like a month or two while I'm looking for a new house. And now I'm finally trying to buy more houses while I'm still working on another house, sort of get those stepping stones going. And then sometimes I'll do some contractor work for a couple people, but right now that's sort of where I'm at.
Gotcha. So what year was it when you got left that first property?
Um, it was 2020 when I started. Um, and I think I got that property in 2019. 2020 is when I opened my LLC. Um,
Gotcha.
in 2019, it was like, and then COVID hit. And then I think I sold the house. So it was late 2019, early 2020. And then I was like, you know what? Let me start a business. So I started the LLC up at that point.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that's interesting because that's pretty, I mean, that's super recent. That's around when you hear everybody talking about when they got into real estate right before all the home prices shot up. And that was my next question, like when did you get started? Because like for me, I graduated in 22, and then the first real estate book I read was at the beginning of 22, and then bought this primary house that year. And then the next year I was doing like a little bit to it. So like painted the one room, did a little bit, and then hired some people out to do like the full remodel. So I kind of
Yeah,
had like that beginning part kind of figured out. It's like, all right, do the room by room scope of work, get
right.
everything priced out, and then they give me their labor costs, and then we go from there. So Yeah, right around that, a couple years before me. And then, going from that, first first property to second property, were you funding that all yourself from your job?
Yeah, so I was very lucky. I was able to, when I flipped my first house and I got it done, and I showed my dad, I was like, I can do this, And I was very fortunate, a lot more fortunate than a lot of people, and he was able to fund me. But I ended up getting a financial. I got a mortgage for the first house I did because I still had my pay stubs and everything from my work and my job, and so I financed the second flip I did,
Like a
and then
full
yeah,
20% down?
yeah, like it was
Oh,
like
geez.
10 or 20% down, man. And then I remodeled it out of pocket from what I had profits on the first flip. And then going into my third one was when my dad was like, okay, you've proven yourself that you can do this, you can handle this. And then, we're buying properties for 150,000, like in all cash. So because of his success, he's allowed me to build this business up. And I've told him, I'm trying to build this business up so I can hand it off to my son, to my family, when I die,
Hmm.
and build something, that's going to last for generations, not just, work 30, 40 years, your 9 to 5 and then retire and call it quits, but actually have like, more than just inheritance, but like an actual physical entity that I can hand off to someone.
Yeah,
So
like you mean all like the rental properties and all of that
right,
kind of
man.
thing?
Yeah, it's like that's the end goal is to, retire and be like, yeah, I'm sitting on 30 rental properties, like all paid off, like all in good condition.
That's the dream right there. Yeah, me and my
Yeah.
wife's goal is to be able to get the flipping started, to be able to create the active income. And then once we have the active income handled, then we can start, picking and choosing the rental properties. And then
Right.
the 5-year goal before I turn 30 is to move out to Hawaii and do it remotely. So we
There you
gotta
go, dude.
yeah, we got a short time span, so it's interesting hearing how other people are doing it. And
Yep.
yeah, because now are you using like a hard money lender to be able to put down like between 10 and 15%, or are you still pretty much buying them 20% down?
Yeah, man, we're 100% all cash for every transaction.
Oh, that's
So
got to be nice.
yeah, like I don't have to pay interest on stuff like that. I've built it up to the point where, you get a big enough pool of money to do that. It's nice, man. You don't have to. The one thing I don't like is, having to really answer to other people or other lenders or things like that. So I've been able to get that financial freedom. It's sweet.
Yeah, I paying for properties completely down, like that's the end goal. And
Yeah.
that's so tough for me right now is because that's what I'm looking for. Like I'm looking for the private lender to be able to do that. So, so for right now, is your strategy mainly like the fix and flips, or are you trying to hold on to as many as you can?
So right now I'm still and I mean probably for the next 5 to 10 years, like I'm still looking to just continue to build a lot of capital. So fix and flips are the way to go.
Hmm.
But with the market and everything, sometimes it hits you and in like in the right spot, man, and it's just like, I'm better off not selling this house. I'm better off with like actually, potentially doing a refinance to, pull more cash out. Only time I usually do any type of mortgages or stuff like that would be on a refinance once the property's fully remodeled. And then I stick a tenant in there and rent it out for a year or two. And I'll do that if the market's not good. If I'm better off saying, hey, I'm going to sell this property in a year from now and I'm going to get 20, 30, maybe 40 grand more than what I could sell it for right now. So that's a technique that I've had to adapt to and, learn to accept that, hey, I start to work on this house, time comes to sell it and everybody might be freaking out in the market for some reason. And I'm better off sitting on it for a year or two. Now, that's the only time I have rental properties and I manage them 100%, put the tenant in there myself. They have an issue with anything. I'm coming out to fix it. Uh, that's the only time I'm gonna have tenants and rental properties. But down the road, once I build up a lot more capital and I can have a nice solid crew of people, I can sit here and say, yeah, we're flipping 4 or 5 houses right now, and I got enough capital to say, okay, I also have 3 more, 4 more, 5 more rental properties, and just sort keep growing that portfolio, you know?
Gotcha. Have you ever looked at doing the hard money? Because I mean, with that pool of capital, like you could probably do three, four, five properties all at one time. Did you ever look in that route, or you just think it's so much easier to do it all cash on one property to where you have that flexibility?
Yeah, I mean, the all cash does give you the flexibility, but at the same time, man, it's like I'm still trying to build a crew of people. Like,
Hmm.
I'm still learning skills. Like, I finally got to the point where I know a lot more, but finding the right people to work for me. I finally have my first employee. He's my cousin. He's 20 years old, super green, doesn't know a thing. So I'm teaching him pretty much step by step. I need to be able to add in more to my own personal crew and not subcontract everything out if I want to be able to sit here and say, yeah, we're working on 4 houses right now. You know,
Gotcha.
I'm just
Gotcha.
not like, and it for me, I'm very particular with my work. We do everything the right way. There's a lot of flippers out there that just their work is laughable, but we're very particular about our work. So, if we are going to hire another worker, it's got to be someone who really knows what they're doing, or someone I can teach to have these skills. So, my business is just sort of too small right now to be handling that many properties.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because yeah, that's a completely different way than I thought about going about it. Because my dad was a plumber his whole life, and my
Yeah,
immediate thought was, no way am I ever touching the plumbing on one of these houses. Like I could do
yeah,
I could do like little things if something would need replaced, but like there's no way I would be able to go in and fix a house because it would take me like the timeline, it would take me over a year to be able to learn to do everything to where it's just so
yeah.
much easier to hire. So what is the timeline looking on, your flips?
Dude, it really depends, man, how much needs to be done. I've had some that didn't need, floors ripped up and things were structurally pretty good, and took me 3 months to do my second property. And then I've had other properties take me like 6 to 8 months just because everything needs to be redone on the property. It was only me at that time. Now my dad comes and works for me. He's retired, and I got a little bit of help with one worker. But the time frame, I'm trying to minimize that time frame. Get in and out without it costing me a lot of money by subbing everything out. So ideally, 3 4 months on a property is good if you can make 40 grand, 50 grand in profit. And then if you do that 3 4 times a year, and then just go up from there. But yeah, I'd say anywhere from like 3 to 8 months is ideal. Anything longer than that, man, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, so you're probably not picking the full gut rehabs or anything crazy like that.
Dude, I mean, I've had some that needed a lot of work, but it is nice to sit here and say, yeah, oh, I found a house that only needs a little bit of XYZ done. And, I put, 20, 30, 40 grand into it, and I can turn around and make a solid profit. But there are some that I've worked on that, I mean, I had a house last year that ended up being is now one of my rental properties, and whole bathroom floors completely, old wood, like water damage and termite damage, all need to be pulled out. Walls need to be come down, like everything stripped to the studs. Like some of them are pretty intensive, so we do pretty intensive work sometimes with that.
Yeah, I try to stay away from the full guts. We did that on we just sold it last month, and man, that was a 7.5 months from beginning to end. That tore me up pretty good, but yeah, it's listening to your strategy compared to like what I've been doing or how I got into it. like I did a house over here in Kannapolis, and I mean, I bought it, or we get through the entire process, and I'm like, where's this 15 grand extra that I thought I was gonna get? So the mentorship I was telling you about before we hopped on, they tell you how to run the numbers on it. And it's you find the ARV, you do 75%, and then you subtract the renovation costs from it. And so I'm like, what? Like, where's this extra 15 grand? So I run the numbers on it, and that's exactly where it was on my purchase price. But, from what you're doing, it's like with you saving all that labor, it's like your profit would have been, probably 30 grand plus rather than my eight. So it's interesting hearing that side of it.
Yeah,
Um,
man. I mean, you got to think about what are you worth an hour, like
yeah.
with your work. And in my opinion, I think I'm worth $100 to $200 an hour based off of how many hours I'm putting in. So that's where you end up seeing that bigger payday. Um, when you finally sell a house. Oh, and don't forget the 5% agent fees that come off top, right?
Yeah, I mean I budget for 10%.
Yeah, yeah,
So that saves me a little bit, but yeah,
yeah.
some people miss that. So let's shift gears here a little bit. So, I don't have this great big following yet, but I want to be, more towards people who are looking to start getting into real estate investing. And I break down like what I do, but what would your advice be to someone who's just getting started, looking to get into fix and flips and make money, just be able to support themselves?
Yeah, man. I would say like go work for a GC, go work for a general contractor that knows what they're doing, that has a good reputation. Um, you know, like if you can really prove yourself, be valuable, you can make a lot of money. I mean, some people enter in and get paid $15 an hour for years, but other people who are, actually learn the skills and prove themselves, it's a ladder, man. You climb the ladder and but working under a GC, you're going to learn a lot of these valuable skills. At least if you're looking to do the method of what I'm doing is actually doing most of the work yourself. Woodworking, basic electrical. I just plumbed this whole house I'm working on. But I when I started, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff, man. So it took time to build up my skills to where I could handle doing it. And nobody's going to be able to just really jump in unless you are doing those loans and the financing that you're talking about. And you're pretty much just the manager of a bunch of subcontractors. But I mean, if you do it a lot, you can make good money on it. But it depends on what type of path you're trying to go down. If you're trying to do the actual physical work yourself, I'd say go through a GC.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think that's pretty helpful, especially, with your route. Because a lot of people try to skip that and they get all hesitated. Or, I mean, there's people coming from all different angles because, like me, I'm like, I know I'm not going to have like the timeline to be able to, make enough to support myself by go learning in the skills. So I have to
Right.
find people with that. So, like, how we run it is I hire the general contractor and then the general contractor does all the subs. So it's
Right.
easier for me, and that way he can handle, he's like 5 or 6 projects at one time. So it's like, all right, he's got, two more slots open. So it's like, all right, let me go find more houses. Let me, do what I'm better at. Like I know I wouldn't be good like hands-on working. So it'd be a little
Right.
bit better for me to go find money and go find the houses. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on whether you feel like you can be good hands-on. Like, man, I grew up and I did really good in art class. I took drafting class. I did really good at that stuff. And I'm really good with woodworking, carpentry, stuff like that. I'm good with the hands-on. Other people aren't. So, I mean, if you aren't good with it, you don't feel like are going to excel in that, then focus on just the investing part of it and do something closer to sort of what you do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a good strat, especially if you like that stuff. I mean, that's
Right.
right up your alley then.
Yeah, man. I like I I work on a house, and what I've created with my own two hands, you can see the result, and it's what makes me love doing what I do. You know, some people are very passionate about their work, and I feel like I fall into that category because I'm physically doing the work, putting the blood, sweat, and tears into each house that I'm doing. I feel like I'll get older, I won't always be doing that, and I'll have more workers and following up on their work and stuff like that. But for right now, I mean, I'm 30 years old, and that's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, what from the houses you've done so far, what's been like the most successful investment so far? I know you got a couple rentals and you've done a couple of flips, but what would you say is the most successful that you've flipped or you're hanging on
Yeah.
to?
It was my third property I worked on, and I got this house out in Concord, North Carolina. The people that lived there were, I mean, hoarders through the roof, literally rooms full of crap. And it was bad. But I bought that house, and because it was such a turnoff to other people and investors, I got it for a good price. I think I paid like 130 or something like that. I ended up putting like 50 grand into the house. I ended up making, don't tell the IRS, but I think I made like 60 or 70 grand on that property. And I think I worked on it for like 6 months. And that was during the time when rates were really low, that people were literally killing each other to put the next highest bid in because rates were so low. And that did nothing but benefit me. Like my properties would list, and they'd sell for 25 grand more than what the listing price was, just because you had you were going to list a property Thursday night, and the property was going to be under contract come Monday.
Those are
And
crazy times I
yeah,
just missed out on.
dude, yeah, I had like two or three houses during that time frame, and I that fueled my business.
Man, that's crazy. But I want to highlight something you said there is like the 60 or 70 over, 6 months. And, people are looking to say they're looking to replace their income. It's like, that's 10 grand a month. Like that's doing
Right,
really, really well. Like that's what some people are doing 50 hour work weeks for. So that's exactly what I love talking about on here is, people that are doing that. It's like, yeah, I found what I
yeah,
like doing. Here's what I can do. And, that's replacing a basically a job and a half. So
right,
that's
man. I
yeah, that's
mean,
awesome.
an unmentioned part of that is like you talk about it, yeah, it's good money, or maybe it's not quite as good money as somebody making 120 grand on their office job or something. But you know what I can do? I don't have a boss. I don't have anybody telling me anything to do, to go. If it's the middle of the day, I can go home. Man, I have no strings are attached, no leashes. That's another big part of it as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So one more question here for you. So I'm not too knowledgeable about the tariffs and everything coming up, but you're just talking about the swings in real estate. I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, like, with some of those trends or changes, what have you seen or what are you planning for coming up here within the next year with all the talk going on around tariffs or just the real estate market in general?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen an impact on prices yet. Or at least they haven't been significant enough for me to realize it. Um, so the tariffs, and I mean, politically, in my opinion, I don't think they're things that are going to last for a super long amount of time. I feel like they're more like negotiating tools. But anyway, like I haven't seen a big impact on prices. I'm sure we will on certain materials though. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about tariffs, but then again, I'm pretty small time. Like I'm not going out and buying crap load of lumber every single day to where I can see those dollar per unit changes and stuff like that. So that might be a little more significant to home builders, that are building thousands of homes at a time. Whereas for me, it's like, yeah, that might impact my, the 40 grand I pay Lowe's for this one flip or something.
Yeah.
But, you know, um, but the way the house market is right now it's been wild, dude. I've seen this like pullback on demand for your higher priced houses. I mean anything over like 250,000 in our area, like, it might turns out it might sit on the market for 2 or 3 months. That was unheard of like 2 or 3 years ago
Yeah.
because the rates were so low. But at the same time, the demand for these investment properties that pop up, I mean, dude, they're off the market as soon as they hit the market. Like it's
Mhm.
crazy. So I'm waiting for things to start to even out because I'm like, people are buying up all these investment properties, but people aren't buying the houses, the finished product. So that
Interesting.
that has been a sort of mind blowing for me that, it took me. I started looking for another property probably like a month and a half ago, and I finally got one under contract. But I mean, I went to go look at three, four, five different houses, man, and I'm like, these people are asking 200 grand for this house. It costs probably 40 grand to fix it up, and the houses in the area similar to that are selling for 240, 250. And there's a certain amount of sweat equity needed to get that house livable or up to a modern remodel condition that is now like there's no longer this like little profit margin that you would typically see. That $200,000 house, in my opinion, should be listed for 140 or 150 because there's all this work that needs to be done. You can't just sit here
Absolutely.
and say, "Oh, the house needs 40 grand worth of work," but we're not going to actually reduce the price, even though somebody needs to do the work.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly what you're saying right there. And for me, it's like if I'm not the one doing it, it's like I have to include labor in it and then buy it
yeah,
deeper than that. So it's like
right.
that's where I've ventured out a little bit, looking more towards subject to and the creative opportunities. And like this one lady in the street here, I had the offer in her hand for her number. It was like 370. She wanted 378. She's like, I know this is what my house is worth. And I'm like, all right, well, if you're willing to sell or finance it and put some terms on it, we can get you that number in like 5 years. She's like, okay, that sounds good, but I want to try and sell the house first. 1 year, one whole year goes by. That house just sold for 275.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds about right, man. These
it's
people, I,
ridiculous.
I don't know what they're smoking, man, but it must be the good stuff because they think it's 2021 still. It's not, dude. I mean, the economy's not great. People are struggling. So
Oh
that
yeah,
with slightly higher rates has just completely tanked the demand. But at the same time, you're not going to see a crash in the housing market. People think it's still coming. They're like, oh, it's coming. It's not coming, dude. It's not going to come because you got all these old people or all these other homeowners that have a death grip on their 2.5, 3% rates. And unless those people are going bankrupt and not paying their mortgages and those houses start becoming available, uh, we're not going to see this huge influx of inventory in the market.
Yeah, I think that's why new builds are getting so popular down in Charlotte. That's where we
Oh
look
yeah.
more, and it's a whole different game, like street by street. It's
Yeah.
it's nuts down there. But yeah, well, Mark, I appreciate you being able to come on the podcast. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you, has some leads for you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Man, I'd say I just went out and started a TikTok just for the heck of it.
Oh
I think I like
yeah.
got like
Oh yeah.
three I think I got like three posts or something. Um Let me see what my username is. Drizzy Drake Homes. That's what it is. So
All
if you
right.
wanna message me or follow me. Go ahead. I mean, I don't have a lot of content, but I'm probably going to be adding more soon when I finish up this flip. That or look me up on Facebook or Instagram. That's I'm still pretty small, so I don't have a big business page or anything, but that's about it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Mark, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And for those listening, we will be back on Friday with another episode. So thank you for tuning in to the Leadway Wealth Builders podcast, episode 126 with Mark Drake. We'll see you next time.